Don't you just hate when this happens? You're scrolling back and forth on YouTube, settling in for a recommended deep dive on a personal favorite franchise, only to discover there were more games related to that series, hidden in plain sight the entire time. Look, I love the classics, but even I'll admit, I've made this boneheaded mistake a few times. When it comes to Sparkster, I paid the ultimate price. It's already a rare and sought after title for both the Super NES and Genesis, so as much as I've touched on Konami's software variation throughout these console wars, I should be one to talk. Well, in typical Konami fashion, these are completely different games, and again, I know what you're about to say, but Kat, we've been down this road plenty of times before, and yes, you're absolutely right. However, it's one thing to put out two adaptations of a specific release across multiple consoles. It's another thing to put out two entirely unique games and labeling them as if they're the exact same shit. Nevertheless, for many years I assumed these two entries were one and the same, and why wouldn't I? Contra 3 The Alien Wars and Contra Hard Corps are two distinct entries. Turtles in Time and Hyperstone Heist share a great deal of the in-game assets and underlying themes, but are specifically marketed as two distinct series entries. You could even make the case here for Tournament Fighters from the box art, featuring distinct characters and stylized artwork to differentiate them apart. I can't help but to think, whichever marketer greenlit the decision to make these covers damn near identical was out of job shortly after. I mean, for those that may have owned a Super NES and a Genesis, you probably overlooked one or the other entirely. What I can say with confidence is that Sparkster was living a double life back then, as his journey across the Super NES was more or less a spin-off entry of the series, while on the Genesis, it follows up the events portrayed across the original. But I'll be brutally honest here, if you take away the tiny subtitle etched along the Mega Drive box art, you really wouldn't tell. Rocket Knight Adventures 2 could easily be the episode 1 of a 2-episode season 2. However, the more we dive into the Genesis release, you'll soon discover this is very much a Sega-inspired series that arguably makes this game the worthy successor of the two, awarding this one a win for Team Sega. Regardless the console preference, our buddy Sparkster here decided to drop the whole Rocket Knight title for his North American sequel. Yep, he bet on himself this time around, selling us on his established brand recognition. You know what? I respect him for that. But the big question we have is, did the supercharged sequel live up to expectations? Well, we had one hell of a season finale our first time around, roasting up some delicious pork belly, while Sparkster brought down an ancient superintelligence that had plagued his kingdom for generations. So, what domino effect did these events have on planet Elhorn? Well, by all means Sparkster, carry on. With the destruction of the Pigstar, the lands of Elhorn would enter an era of peace and prosperity, a renaissance period of sorts for Kingdom Zephyrus, led by a reborn hero whom now stood alongside a short list of legendary Rocket Knights. However, with balance restored to these lands, all of this fortune did not come without consequences, as across the vast regions of Elhorn, rivaling factions were at unease. A once prominent nation who once had a stranglehold on the neighboring tribes fell at the hands of Sparkster, and as quickly as one empire falls, another would capitalize on the moment, rising to this occasion to correct the hierarchy across the lands. Rallying out of the sheer chaos rose the empire of Gdal, led by a cold-blooded reptilian warlord known as King Gdal. He has slowly grown a cult following, sweeping across each region as he conquered his rivals whom once swore allegiance to the Divotindos Empire. Seizing the moment, the king redirected his focus to the one responsible for the Great Collapse, now a potential threat to his ever-growing legion of subjects. The king methodically went about his business, fortifying his army with the most advanced weaponry, appointing the right soldier in place to do his bidding. However, in order to lead this new army to victory, he would need a general just as ruthless as he. Perhaps even a hero born of Zephyrus, one that not only had familiarized himself with their infrastructure, but one whom wouldn't hesitate to follow through when need be. What the king needed was his own personal Rocket Knight, and he would indeed do just that, enlisting the aid of a resurfacing Axel Gear, who now has his own list of objectives to prove without a shadow of a doubt who the very best Rocket Knight of Zephyrus truly is, and what better way to do so than lead his own personal army in the combat against the ones that defied his greatness years ago. Although peace was short-lived on planet Elhorn, Sparkster made great use of his downtime. The guy's been hard at work, tinkering with his craft just long enough to make the perfect alterations to his jetpack. Now presenting us with the future of Rocket Knight flight with the all-new jumper pack. No, not the ones that play your old copy of Majora's Mask, the other jumper packs. The latest breakthrough in Zephyrian technology. This baby's got all the bells and whistles needed to send you in the Mach speeds. You now take to the sky world with the flick of a switch, as this bad boy has a built-in charger mapping its turbine boosters to a simple trigger on your controller. This allows for far superior air travel with a 2-gauge charge meter that, when filled to full battery life, allows Sparkster to propel forward with the new screw attack, a technique which allows you to cover far greater distance while additionally skewering a horde of oncoming enemies. Mastering this new technique is vital to uncovering specific clues and pathways for travel, as the term itself is used in the in-game context quite literally. Not only does it deal significantly more damage, but finds you becoming a master mathematician when dissecting the mad machinery you encounter along the way. As you travel around town, you get creative with those new jetpack skills, allowing your meter to refill just long enough to keep to the skies like you found a golden mushroom in the forest, zigzagging about in style till you feel like coming down. Sparkster is still a master in the art of fencing, but somewhere along the way, he somehow lost the ability to tap into that ancient magic he emitted from his blade years ago. So unfortunately, no more unlimited Hadokens. The trade-off here is that you can acquire upgrades for your sword for a fiery duel to the death. Apparently, with all those unlockable difficulty levels, Konami thought our first adventure was far too easy, deciding to nerf our hero in the process. It's even more apparent in the health department, as we're down from 8 hearts to a measly 5. Fear not though, there's still a plentiful harvest throughout this countryside to keep your belly satisfied, along with an assortment of rich prizes like these spare battery packs to keep you fully charged for the precise moment needed to zip through the traffic jam ahead. Also, if that's still not enough to quench your palate, then test your luck at the casino slots hovering over you in the top right corner of the screen. It'll cost you some gems, but give it a go, delivering you some
big money, big prizes. I love it!
Our adventure opens to our freshly crowned hometown hero on his own personal quest, a sort of knight's trial in a sense that all legends must eventually embark on. Scattered across the mythical world of Elhorn lie 7 sacred swords, which when claimed by those it deems worthy, relinquishes its magnificent power into their bearer. Although merely a legend of these lands, these swords have the ability to unlock the true potential of those whom wield them, yet in the same breath may be so chaotic in nature that they too could ultimately bend the bearer's mind itself, succumbing one to whatever madness lies within their heart. Sparkster is well aware of this potential power, especially if left in the wrong hands, now searching out these 7 sacred swords to protect his homeland from those whom look to harness this power for their own ill intent. Acquiring some intel on their whereabouts leads Sparkster to a neighboring cave off the outskirts of Zephyrus, where rumors implied that one lies deep within these underground caverns. However, the mere moment he locks eyes with his prize, the ground surrounding him shifts as a large war vessel draws near, ambushing his entire operation. In this very moment, a familiar face can now be seen flickering in and out of the nearby light source. The ever so rebellious Axel Gear draws forth, longtime friend turned foe and rival, looking to steal the bounty right out from underneath his nose. Our fearless Opossum isn't going down without a fight, bringing those hands, now ready to get scrappy by putting on an exhibition with his latest big boy toys. You need to keep your guard up, deflecting each heat wave emitted from Axel's vessel. The moment he leaves his body open, be ready to lean in with a counter jab, bobbing and weaving by staying light on your feet, evading each of Axel's strikes. These leave him open for a counter each time, pushing him back against the ropes till you deliver the knockout blow, reaching down deep for a little max-sized uppercut, sending this punk-ass possum down on the mat, tumbling below to fight another day. With his prize in sight, Sparkster exits his mech, leaning in to grip the handle of his very first Master Sword. With both hands holding tight, he pulls back with all his might, releasing the blade from its slab sheath as its power emanates throughout the cavern, illuminating the scene with its otherworldly powers. As the screen goes white, the stage is set for our next big adventure. With the sword now recovered, Sparkster heads home, where he's greeted by his welcome party to celebrate the latest trial to become a transcended super, rocket possum. However, just as the celebration kicks off, petty old Axel Gear crashes the party, still butthurt from being bested prior. Without hesitation, he swoops in, kidnapping Princess Cherry. No, not Sherry. This time he goes with a cousin to sideline our hero's plans, looking to lead him into the clutches of Gdal forces as things look to be taking a turn for the worse because shit's about to pop off here in the kingdom of Zephyrus. With this latest damsel in distress looming over our hero's head, he finds himself boosting onto the scene, crashing down into the neighboring countryside where we discover the ancient ruins of a once prosperous empire. As you stretch your limbs to engage in some back and forth swordplay, you discover there's something vastly different about our old possum. Maybe it's that hedgehog-esque haircut he's rocking, or his newly found confidence here in his strut, but whatever it may be, this dude moves with convincing speed, zipping across these marble gardens with ease. The environments are far more open-ended this go-around, giving you the freedom needed to boost at your liking. These stages are designed with your upgrades in mind to advance the plot forward, throwing enemies off your scent as you speed up on a dime to stick that swirling dagger in their heart. You need to trace your steps back closely, leaving no stone unturned and making good use of our new power tools to uncover the secrets buried behind these withered walls, rewarding you for exploration as you stumble upon those ancient relics. You probably noticed that these stages have a good deal of branching pathways to travel down, but ultimately reroute you to your destined path where you pick apart those larger-than-life enemies that surveillance the lands. When comparing this to the level design of the original Rocket Knight, this feels far more streamlined in mechanics, playing it safe with a more traditional platforming experience. However, this is Konami we're talking about, and they excel in this particular field, so like the kids say today, let Konami cook. For me, it was always if you smell what Konami's cooking, as Sparkster still packs a mighty punch when it comes to sheer creativity, so be sure to whip out that protractor, calculating the odds to clear your landing. There's something overly satisfying about having this additional freedom, giving you total control over the airway to plan out your flight path accordingly, allowing you to gain just enough boost juice to keep afloat. Even in the tightest spaces, you can pull off some nifty tricks, racing through the forest ruins as the first of our Gdal generals closes in on Sparkster, leading you into his nearby chambers for some back and forth theatrics, or should I say acrobatics, all while aided by our furry woodland friends. This big behemoth plows throughout the room, tearing through the fresh forest terrain as he rewrites history across these lands. He will soon fill the room with explosives, to where Possum becomes another victim to death by roadkill. This dude's got a bit of that armored armadillo feel about him, harkening back to the X series, just straight up bulldozing his way throughout until the brief moment presents, launching yourself full steam ahead for a gorebuster finale with your faithful blade. With our first two swords acquired, it's time to flee the scene, venturing beyond the homelands as you look to hop aboard a cargo vessel headed into the desert. Gdal troops begin to deploy down into the bed of the speedy freight train, while crew members hide deep within the shipping crates for the unsuspected victim. You need to choose wisely when partaking in this trick-or-treat themed game of chance. It's also a great way to test out your new techniques too, clearing out a path under and over the many compartments of this luxury cruiser. As you hop from train cart to train cart, you eventually locate the conductor of this entire ordeal, powering online as he towers over you, opening this battle up to one of those crazy multi-jointed boss encounters that so many of those late Konami Genesis titles treated us to, telling a hero's journey through these encounters which really brings these unique worlds to life. After you derail this mad freight train, the temperature rises across the desert sands and reality becomes blurred. It's here you rely on your new abilities to keep it breezy, looking to take shelter inside the Great Pyramids where legend has it our next sword awaits. Unfortunately, no one ever lived to tell the tale, as acquiring these swords becomes far more difficult moving ahead. And to make matters worse, the inner tombs now appear to be excavation sites for the Gdal Empire, utilizing its rich resources to power their infernal machines. This stage finds you in a constant panic, never looking behind you as you continue to boost up and over the pyramid's trollish stage design, riddled with trapdoors and optical illusions that will quickly overwhelm you if you don't have the patience to master the in-game physics. The puzzles here are far less skill-based and more trial and error, making it less desirable to continue forward. If we're going to be comparing this game to the likes of the Sonic series, then by all means look no further than that damn Sandopolis. If it's not the quick sand traps holding you back, it's the moving contraptions and collapsing floors, so be prepared to be boosting whenever humanly possible to advance forward in this cryptic keep. Again, this won't be accomplished without chaining together your attacks to stay ahead of the curve. Also, speaking of Sonic, remember how annoying those ghosts were in Sandopolis? At least they gave you a warning sign, right? Here Gdal forces remain hidden in the shadows, only being revealed by solving the chamber secrets. That is, blowing out the chamber candles and making a wish for them to appear. So again, you need to perfect your boost game, ricocheting off the walls the whole damn time to make it work. You're playing a hand of mental gymnastics from start to end, and this pacing almost feels out of place here, being the second stage of the 6. Each stage is large and fleshed out too, so be prepared to be in this bitch for a hot minute to eventually reach the center. As you descend down below, the room starts to shake as a bioweapon of ancient origin resurfaces, powering up to protect its keeper. Greased up and ready to go, this mechanical tyrant will make its way from the background to the inner sector for the right moment to strike, with a sequence of programmed attack defenses detaching its steel talons to wrap you up, tearing you limb from limb and sending you back from where you came. That is, if you aren't already tied up by his segmented tail. Oh, and by the way, making any accidental contact with his robust frame will do significantly more damage, so try to keep your distance, heavily boosting above while monitoring Godzilla's heat seekers from the heavens as he wreaks havoc down atop the city. Time your strikes accordingly, keeping a lookout for falling debris till the opportunity presents itself, drawing your blade towards the belly of the beast. Solving the clues to this riddle leads us down a path to Victory Road, hitching a ride across the Gdal Air Force till we reach our desired destination. This stage is a standout for me personally, a refreshing break from those long-winded platforming sections, and the quick pace here makes for some unique play features. Recovering our next sword is a one and done ordeal here, because there's no going back, so be sure to search high and low, covering all your ground, because if you don't, you're quickly getting gobbled up by the elements around you. Unfortunately, time is not on our side today, as the antics ramp up, turning this mission into a killer auto-scroller, requiring you to efficiently dissect the floating war vessel from inside out. Since the shoot-'em-up segments have been omitted this time around, this sort of fills that void for me, and the zany cast and crew is a real delight. The captain of this cuckoo's nest can't be too happy with this remodel, and he'll soon let you know how he feels about it, hulking up to monstrous proportions, emitting some ghastly spirit energy that encapsulates the room, dwarfing you down to size. A master of illusions, able to hide his true power level, transforming at will for whatever fits the occasion. He will continue to launch ghostly projections into the room, spiraling over as the spirits of the fallen loom over you, placing some bad juju on your soul. His illusions will continue to haunt you as he continues to shapeshift down to the micro level, playing the numbers game to overthrow you. Quickly shake him off, dodging and weaving till he reveals his true identity. Eventually you will tire of these games, as the jig will be up, and you'll soon see through the smoke and mirrors as he finds himself performing one too many encores, writing his character out this story with a tragic ending. Our aircruiser will eventually lead us into the heart of the Gdal Empire, where it just so conveniently appears Sparkster last parked his robomech, now hopping in as he looks to deliver a little payback to the royal family the best way he knows how. Running amok down the city streets, racing some hell as Gdal troops take to the skies, deploying down in waves, hoping to chip away at that beautiful blue war vessel you got there. This snazzy new ride is decked out with all the latest features, looking to send these shifty green geckos into orbit with a hella heavy-handed rocket punch. They're quite resilient, looking to continue their assault forward, attempting to sweep your legs out from beneath you. With proper pacing and footwork, you will continue to keep on juking in and out of traffic, rallying up ahead with an electrifying curb stomp to make your statement. With all the commotion taking place across the city, Axel Gear gets wind of the events, leaving headquarters to meet you halfway in the center of the city for a reunion across the mean streets of Gdal. He will soon sneak in the frame with his infamous midnight purple mech hovering throughout the distance as he tries out his new toys from afar. Keep the pace, speeding ahead to parry this assault. Eventually, the road ahead will come to a dead end as you go crashing through the Gdal stronghold, creating the stage for a perfect rematch. It's time for round 2, exchanging straight jabs and body blows for a first round knockout. This fight will be very similar to your first, so keep that fancy footwork up. Remember, you've been training for this moment, so keep that uppercut in your bag of tricks for the perfect 1-2 combination, and you're soon enough put him on his ass once more. With a pathway forged forward, it's time to take to the King's stronghold. As you go on a massive tear across enemy lines, past events will soon begin to weigh on your conscience, as the entirety of the stage feels like a never-ending trial here, as you must go through several sequences of enemy waves to unlock specific routes of travel, testing your mastery in the fine arts of boosting to clear a path forward. Enemy ships will search you out, placing their crosshairs on your hide for an offensive blitz. Whatever you do, don't look back, continue to push forward, breaching each line of security while dissecting this reptilian fortress. You will continue to find yourself in these confined predicaments that are masked as boss rush gauntlets that test your reflexes. Just know the sounds of alarms means another boss encounter as the fortress steadily collapses around you. This, in my opinion, is where Sparkster truly differentiates itself from its predecessor, placing the focus more so on the traditional platforming than that immersive experience of the original. Optimistically, it harkens back to those early days of Konami, where a great deal of the challenge comes by the uncertainty of the enemy placing or patterns that appeared almost puzzle-like in presentation. These specific sequences may ultimately make or break the experience, depending on what you've been accustomed to prior. Circling the outskirts of the fortress will force the king to dispatch his heavy artillery, armored mechs that scale the perimeter, unloading a sequence of attack rounds into you that will require you to kick that boost pack into overdrive. For some quick spurts of offense, required you to end these fights as quickly and effectively as possible before they begin to nest, mounting their large frames into the cold steel structure, looking to open fire. Deactivating the Wrecking Crew will not only reward you with your next sacred sword, but prove your worth to the Green Giant, opening a pathway to Gdal's castle. Unfortunately, your trip will be placed on pause because someone has a score to settle with you. This dude just doesn't know when to quit. The master of cockblocks and gatekeeper of the reptilian throne, he will stop at nothing to piss in your next bowl of cornflakes. Axel creates an electric barrier that surrounds the two warriors, ready to see things to the very end. He soon kicks those jet turbines into gear, soaring about the room. He's utilized those powerful elemental upgrades to create a fiery pinwheel to heat things up, so keep your eyes peeled as your limited mobility here will hinder your offense, and Axel stays boosting throughout, looking to skewer you with his very own sacred sword. You will need to end this quickly as the electrical fields continue to close in on you. Your best bet is to dash up and down to trip him up as he zips back and forth to then retaliate with a well-played counter, dashing off again in hopes to reset this offense. Continue to trace his boost patterns, striking back until he comes to terms with reality. He's been outclassed here. Besting Axel Gear in battle finds your age-old nemesis coming to terms and paying his respects, relinquishing the last of the sacred swords and breaking the seal. With the swords now united, they forge together, causing a surge of power radiating through the blade, traveling down through the sword's hilt as it slowly pours through the veins of Sparkster, filling our hero with the endless fighting spirit of the Saphirian gods. These trials not only deem Sparkster worthy to wield the power, but allows him to bend the spirit energy at will, pushing our hero into a transcendent super state. There's nothing holding back our Golden Warrior from now entering Gdal's fortress, firing up his jet turbines and igniting his rocket pack as he dashes off to his final test. Descending down into the heart of the king's chamber, he locates Cherry. However, something seems off here as she pleads to be freed from her hellacious captivity. These castle walls are known to keep secrets, as this Cherry is merely an illusion drizzled in deception, now shapeshifting into something of pure evil. This is Konami, guys, so you already know this is going to have that big fight feel going in, like those iconic Dracula fights we've seen so many times over. Our Prince of Geckos powers up as he begins channeling his inner Dracula, filling the room throughout with his many optical illusions to throw our golden possum off his tracks, looking to capitalize on your every mistake as he slithers throughout the room, summoning large electrical fields that streak down into the chambers. You need to think 2 steps ahead, timing your boosts accordingly with every strike. Between each phase, Gdal will need to recharge, allowing you to seize the moment, getting your licks in just before he casts Meteor from the heavens, causing a belt of cosmic debris to hail down in. If you can manage to wait out the storm by the corners of this room, you can manage to counter his assault with what I like to call the Super Sparkster spin attack, evading those skull-crushing blows by slicing and dicing up the cold-blooded king. However, in time you realize there's more to this reptile than meets the eyes, as besting him in combat allows him to shed his skin, merely a vessel that contained his true power, now able to be released into the ether, causing the fortress around you to crumble, bringing forth his Giga state, feeding off the chaotic energy that encapsulates this chamber. I call this full-powered form Giga Gdal, and he soon enough begins to project a series of kinetic blasts that doubles as tiny bullet hells to maneuver through. These blasts will travel in pairs up and around the room. With the power of the legendary Rocket Knights flowing through your veins, continue to execute your mastery of the blade, avoiding each wave of electrical fields with timely boosts and pinwheel counters while keeping in lockstep with Gdal. Stick to the script, memorizing the raised patterns, focusing in on that Infinity Stone lodged in this big bruiser's forehead. Continue slashing away, proving here and now why you were the chosen one. As the stone shatters, so does Gdal, imploding from within as the castle destructs around you, closing out this act with no Sparkster in sight. Back at Castle Zephyrus, the king looks on, feeling as if all hope is lost. That is until a ray of light shimmers in the distance, bringing forth the legendary hero in all his golden glory, now with Princess Cherry in arms, reuniting the royal family just as the prophecy foretold, telling the tale of the legendary Golden Knight that protected these very lands many moons ago. Sparkster or Rocket Knight Adventures 2, however you want to slice it, is a solid attempt at a follow-up to his very first adventure. Although the original had a far more diverse palette of gameplay elements, Sparkster does an excellent job doubling down on what it sets out to do here, and that being a die-hard platformer, placing more emphasis on the exploration while putting his nifty new upgrades to good use. It can't go without saying how much I miss those well-oiled shoot-'em-up sections the original gave us. However, there were still a great deal of standout moments here. I love the way they managed to continue to find new ways to spice up the Rocket Knight rivalry, giving us excellent cutscenes and enemy encounters that had these over-the-top, big fight feels about them. There's no question this game has those moments where it just falls flat, making the exploration aspect more of a chore than one I wish to seek out, especially when acquiring the Chaos Emerald, Chaos Swords, which really can make the game chug sometimes. Where this gets a pass for me is through the many unique ideas wrapped within the stage themes. Whether they all landed as well as intended, that's entirely up to speculation. I do have to applaud the effort, and let's keep it real, seeing Sparkster go all superhero in the final act just got me all in my feels. If anything, this was just a real homage to the classic Sonic games, and that's never really a bad thing in my opinion. I never once felt at any point this was a disappointment compared to the original. This is Sparkster, as the name implies, so you have to almost ask yourself, maybe Konami was alluding to the fact that this was entirely its own thing outside the original game? Well, one thing is for sure, this was an experiment to say the least. I'm being serious, could you warn us next time? How about just change the flip and cover art for Pete's sake? As this now begs the question, what exactly lies in store for us over at Nintendo? Could we potentially see some sweet new Mode 7 effects weaved into this adventure? Hey, when it comes to this particular series, it really is just a free-for-all out here. And as one chapter closes, another opens once more to our legendary hero of Elhorn, now embarking on his third and final journey across the 4th generation of home consoles. Till next time on Sparkster Ball Z. See you there, gang.